The first thing Adanna Okafor noticed was the blood. Not the man slumped against the wall of the narrow Seoul alley. Not the expensive suit torn at the shoulder. Not even the way his breathing came in shallow, pained gasps that misted in the cold November air. The blood, dark against the gray concrete, pooling beneath him like spilled ink. She should have kept walking. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around, to pretend she hadn't seen, to let whatever this was, gang violence, a mugging gone wrong, something that wasn't her problem, remain not her problem. But she stopped. Maybe it was the nurse training she'd had in her early 20s, before she'd switched to communications. Maybe it was the fact that she'd been in Seoul for 3 months and was still trying to prove to herself that moving halfway across the world hadn't been a mistake. Maybe it was just that she was tired of being invisible in a city where she'd never quite fit. Hey! Her voice cut through the quiet evening, sharp with authority she didn't feel. Are you okay? Stupid question. He was clearly not okay. His head lifted slowly, and Adanna's breath caught. Because even injured, even pale with blood loss, even with that dangerous edge of violence still clinging to him like cologne, he was the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. Sharp jawline. Dark eyes that focused on her with an intensity that made her take an involuntary step back. Black hair falling across his forehead, damp with sweat despite the cold. Go, he managed, his voice rough. His English was accented but clear. Not safe. You're bleeding. I said go. More forceful this time, but his body betrayed him. He tried to stand and couldn't, his hand pressed against his side where blood seeped between his fingers. Adanna looked around. The alley was empty. It was past 9 p.m. in Gangnam, and this particular side street was deserted, caught between the glittering main roads and the quieter residential areas. She should leave. She should absolutely leave. She knelt beside him instead. Let me see, she said, reaching for his hand. He grabbed her wrist, fast, despite his injury, and the strength in his grip sent a shock of fear through her system. Don't, he said, but his eyes were unfocused now, fighting to stay conscious. Don't touch. I'm a trained nurse, she lied smoothly. Close enough to true. Let me help or you're going to bleed out in this alley. Something in her tone must have convinced him, because his grip loosened. His hand fell away. She pulled back his jacket and hissed. A knife wound, deep but not immediately fatal if treated quickly. She yanked off her scarf, pressed it against the wound. Hospital, she said firmly. Now. No hospital. His hand covered hers, holding the makeshift bandage in place, and even through her fear she noticed how his touch lingered. No, police. Of course. Because whatever this was, it wasn't legal. Then you need somewhere to treat this properly or you'll. I have people, he interrupted and pulled out a phone with his free hand. He spoke rapid Korean, too fast for her limited understanding, and ended the call. 5 minutes, he said to her in English. Then, with visible effort, thank you. Who did this to you? His lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it wasn't so sharp, so dangerous. Someone who regrets it now. A chill ran down her spine that had nothing to do with the November cold. They sat there in the alley, her hand holding pressure on his wound, his hand covering hers, breathing in unison as they waited. She should pull away. Should stand up and leave before whoever he'd called arrived. But his eyes never left her face, studying her with an intensity that made her feel stripped bare. If you're enjoying this Afro-Korean love story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating episodes. Your name, he said. Not a question. A demand, but softly spoken. That's not important. Your name, he repeated, and this time there was steel beneath the softness. Adanna. He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting each syllable. Adanna. And you are? Kang Ji-hoon. The name meant nothing to her, but the way he said it, like it should mean something, like it was a name that carried weight, made her uneasy. Well, Ji-hoon SSI, you should be more careful. Should I? That dangerous smile again. If I had been careful, I wouldn't have met you. Before she could respond, a black SUV screeched to a halt at the mouth of the alley. 3 men poured out, large, dangerous-looking men in dark suits who moved with military precision. They stopped short when they saw her. Rapid Korean flew between them and Ji-hoon. She caught only fragments. Who? Witness. Problem. No, Ji-hoon said sharply in English, clearly for her benefit. She helped. She leaves safely. One of the men, the largest one, with a scar running down his cheek, looked skeptical. Boss, she saw. She leaves safely. Each word was punctuated, final. Despite his injury, his authority was absolute. They lifted him carefully, and Adanna stood back, suddenly aware of how out of her depth she was. Whatever this was, whoever he was, she wanted no part of it. Wait, Ji-hoon said as they helped him toward the SUV. She froze. He looked back at her, and something in his expression had changed. Softened. Intensified. Both at once. Thank you, Adanna, he said quietly. I won't forget this. Then they were gone, the SUV disappearing into Seoul traffic, leaving her alone in the alley with her bloody scarf and a feeling that she'd just made a terrible mistake. She tried to forget him. For 3 days, she went about her life, working from her small apartment in Itaewon, video calling with her business partners back in Lagos, trying to build the Korean branch of her communications firm, learning the language, navigating the casual xenophobia that came with being a black woman in a homogeneous society. For 3 days, she almost succeeded in pushing that night from her mind. Then the flowers arrived. A bouquet so large it barely fit through her apartment door, white roses, hundreds of them, arranged with the kind of artistry that spoke of serious money. The card was simple. Thank you. Kay. She should have been flattered. Instead, she felt uneasy. How did he know where she lived? The next day, a package arrived. Inside, a designer scarf Hermes, the kind that cost more than her monthly rent, in deep burgundy silk. To replace the one you ruined saving me. Kay. She didn't keep it. Left it in the box, pushed it to the back of her closet. The third day, there was a knock on her door. She opened it to find the scarred man from the alley, the one who'd wanted to know if she was a problem. Miss Okafor, he said in heavily accented English. Boss requests your presence. Dinner. I don't think so, she said, already closing the door. His hand caught it. Not aggressively, but firmly. He wishes to thank you properly. For saving his life. I don't need thanks. Tell him we're even. He will be disappointed. Something in the way he said it made her pause. Not a threat exactly, but a warning. I'm not interested, she said firmly. Please tell your boss I appreciate the gifts, but I'd prefer to forget that night happened. We're strangers. Let's keep it that way. The man studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I will tell him. He left, and Adanna closed the door, heart pounding. She'd just rejected a man who commanded people with military precision, who made men twice his size obey without question, who had people to call when he was stabbed in an alley. She should feel relieved that it was over. Instead, she felt like she'd just made things infinitely more complicated. She saw him everywhere after that. Not in person, not at first. But his presence haunted her. The coffee shop she frequented suddenly refused to let her pay. Taken care of, the barista would say with a knowing smile. The restaurant where she'd made reservations for a business dinner somehow had her party upgraded to a private room with a view. Compliments of the house. Her landlord called to say her rent had been paid for the next 6 months. By whom? He wouldn't say. Couldn't say. A construction project near her apartment that had been making her life hell for weeks suddenly stopped. Moved to a different location overnight. It was infuriating. It was invasive. It was obsessive, her business partner back in Lagos said when Adanna called to vent. Girl, you've got a stalker. He's not stalking me. He's just everywhere. Without being there. That's worse. That's power. Adanna knew she was right. This wasn't some lovesick boy sending flowers. This was a man with resources, with reach, with the ability to bend an entire city to his will. And he'd focused all of that power on her. When she finally saw him again, it wasn't by accident. She was at a gallery opening in Gangnam, professional networking, trying to make connections for her business. She wore her armor, a black dress that said serious professional, heels that added 3 inches to her 5 feet 7 inches frame, her hair in a sleek bun that took an hour to perfect. She felt him before she saw him. That prickle of awareness, like standing too close to a fire. She turned, and there he was. Across the gallery, surrounded by people who hung on his every word, looking nothing like the bleeding man from the alley. Tonight he wore power like a second skin, a black suit that probably cost more than her car back in Lagos, his hair styled back, his presence commanding the space around him. And he was staring directly at her. Their eyes met, and Adanna felt her breath catch. He smiled, slow, deliberate, predatory, and started walking toward her. Every instinct screamed run. She held her ground. Adanna, he said when he reached her, and the way he said her name, like a caress, like a claim, made her skin prickle. You're even more beautiful than I remembered. Mr. Kang, she replied coolly, deliberately formal. I didn't expect to see you here. Didn't you? He moved closer, into her personal space, and she forced herself not to step back. I own this gallery. Of course he did. Then you know everyone here. And I'm just another guest. Excuse me. She tried to move past him. His hand, gentle but immovable, caught her elbow. Dance with me. I don't dance. Liar. His eyes sparkled with amusement and something darker. I've learned a lot about you these past weeks, Adanna Okafor. You were a dancer in university. Before you became a nurse. Before you became a communications consultant. Before you ran from Lagos to Seoul looking for something you couldn't name. Her blood ran cold. You investigated me? I wanted to know, he said simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The woman who stopped in a dangerous alley to help a stranger. Who didn't run when she saw blood. Who looked at me like I was human, not a monster. I wanted to know everything. That's not romantic, she hissed, aware of eyes on them. That's terrifying. Is it? He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper only she could hear. Or is it terrifying because part of you likes being seen? Really seen? For the first time in years. She jerked her arm free. Stay away from me. I can't. The simple honesty of it stopped her. You don't know me, she said, but her voice wavered. I know you take your coffee black with 1 sugar. I know you call your sister every Sunday at 7 a.m. Seoul time. I know you haven't dated anyone since your divorce 6 years ago. I know you moved here to run away from something, but you won't admit what. I know you're lonely even though you'd never say it out loud. I know. Stop. Her voice broke. Just stop. He did, immediately, and the concern that flashed across his face was so genuine it hurt. I frighten you, he said. Not a question. Yes. Good. That dangerous smile again. You should be frightened. I'm not a good man, Adanna. But I'm trying very hard to be good for you. I don't want you to be anything for me. I want you to leave me alone. No, you don't. The arrogance should have infuriated her. Instead, it just made her tired. What do you want from me? She asked, exhausted. His answer was immediate, intense, absolute. Everything. He courted her like a king courting a queen. Except she didn't want to be courted. Gifts arrived daily, jewelry she didn't wear, designer clothes she didn't keep, art she didn't display. She donated most of it, sold some of it, sent some back. He didn't stop. Invitations came to exclusive events, private concerts, dinners at restaurants with year-long waiting lists. She declined them all. He didn't stop. He showed up at her coffee shop, her grocery store, her favorite walking path along the Han River. Never intrusive, never threatening, just there, his eyes following her with that unnerving intensity. This is harassment, she told him one afternoon when she'd had enough, confronting him outside her building. Is it? He leaned against his car, another absurdly expensive vehicle, completely unruffled. I haven't touched you. Haven't threatened you. I simply exist in the same spaces you do. Spaces you've researched. Places you know I'll be. Yes, he agreed simply. Why won't you just leave me alone? He straightened, and suddenly the casual demeanor dropped. In its place was something raw, hungry, barely controlled. Because I can't, he said, his voice rough. Because from the moment you knelt beside me in that alley, looked at me without fear, touched me like I was worth saving, you've been all I can think about. I've tried to forget you. Tried to move on. Tried to convince myself this obsession is unhealthy and I should let you go. He took a step closer. But I can't. You're in my head, Adanna. In my blood. And the more you push me away, the more you say no, the more I want you. The more I need to prove to you that I can be what you need. I don't need anything from you, she said, but her voice shook. Liar. He smiled, but it was strained. You need someone who sees you. Who doesn't treat you like you're invisible. Who doesn't let you hide behind your walls and your professionalism and your determination to never need anyone. You don't know what I need. Then tell me. He moved closer still, and she could smell his cologne, feel his warmth. Tell me what you need, and I'll give it to you. Tell me how to win you, and I'll do it. Tell me to wait, and I'll wait. But don't tell me to leave, because that's the one thing I can't do. She should have been frightened. Should have been angry. Should have called the police or gotten a restraining order or done any of the sensible things. Instead, she felt something crack inside her chest. I'm 47 years old, she whispered. You're what? 35? 36. 37. I'm too old for this. Too tired for this. I've already done the relationship thing. The marriage thing. The heartbreak thing. I came to Korea to start over, to build something for myself, to be alone because being alone is safer than being seen, he finished. Then being wanted. Then being loved. You don't love me. You're obsessed with me. There's a difference. Is there? He reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His touch was gentle, reverent. Because I think about you every moment. I rearrange my schedule to catch glimpses of you. I've started learning about Nigerian culture so I can understand you better. I've watched every interview you've ever given, read every article you've written. I know the way you smile when you think no one's watching. I know the sadness you carry like armor. I know. Stop, she breathed, because it was too much, too intense, too real. Make me, he whispered back. And God help her, she almost kissed him. Almost. Instead, she stepped back, wrapped her arms around herself. I don't date criminals, she said quietly. His face went carefully blank. So you do know who I am. I looked you up. After the third gift. After I realized you weren't going away. She met his eyes. Kang Ji-hoon. Head of the Kang family syndicate. Illegal gambling, smuggling, protection rackets. You're a gangster. A yakuza. Mafia boss, he supplied, his voice flat. Yes, all of those things. So you understand why this, whatever this is, can't happen. Because I'm a criminal. Because you're dangerous. I would never hurt you. You already are, she said, and her voice broke. You're in my head now too. I see you everywhere, even when you're not there. I think about you when I shouldn't. I wonder what it would be like if I said yes. And that terrifies me more than anything else. Because I came here to be safe, to be alone, to not feel these things anymore. And you're ruining it. Silence stretched between them, heavy and fragile. I'm sorry, he said finally, and he actually sounded it. I never wanted to cause you pain. Then let me go. I can't. Ji-hoon. I can't, he repeated, and there was anguish in his voice now. I know I should. I know you deserve better than a man like me. But I'm selfish, Adanna. I've been selfish my entire life. And I want you more than I've ever wanted anything. So I can't let you go. But I can. He took a deep breath. I can give you space. I'll stop the gifts. Stop showing up. I'll wait. Until you're ready. What if I'm never ready? His smile was heartbreaking. Then I'll wait forever. He kept his word. The gifts stopped. The chance encounters stopped. The feeling of being watched, tracked, known, it all stopped. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt his absence like a wound. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Then a month. She threw herself into work, into building her business, into the life she'd come to Korea to build. But everything felt muted now. Colorless. Her coffee didn't taste as good. The view from her apartment seemed less beautiful. The city that had been overwhelming but exciting now just felt overwhelming. You miss him, her sister Chioma said during their Sunday call. I don't. Adanna, please. I've known you for 47 years. You miss him. He's a criminal, Chioma. So? Our uncle was a criminal. Half of Lagos business is technically criminal. That's different. Why? Because it makes it easier to push him away? Because you're so terrified of being hurt again that you'd rather be alone than take a risk. I'm not terrified. You divorced Marcus 6 years ago, and you haven't let anyone close since. Not one person. Not one date. Nothing. You came to Korea to hide, sister. And then this man saw you anyway, despite all your hiding, and that scares you more than his criminal record ever could. Adanna was silent, because Chioma was right. What if he breaks my heart? She whispered. What if he doesn't? Chioma countered. What if you break his? You have all the power here, Adanna. He's the one obsessed. He's the one waiting. He's the one who'll do anything you ask. That's not weakness, that's love. It's obsession. Sometimes, Chioma said gently, they're the same thing. She went to find him on a cold December evening, 6 weeks after their last conversation. She didn't know where he lived, but she knew where to look. She'd done more research since their confrontation, not because she was reconsidering, she told herself, but because she needed to understand the man who'd upended her carefully constructed life. The Kang family owned half of Gangnam. Luxury hotels, restaurants, nightclubs. A legitimate empire built on illegitimate foundations. Their headquarters was obvious once you knew what to look for, a sleek high-rise in the heart of the district, all black glass and subtle menace. She walked in before she could change her mind. The lobby was minimalist, expensive, intimidating. 2 men in suits, guards, obviously, intercepted her immediately. I'm here to see Kang Ji-hoon, she said, proud of how steady her voice was. They looked at each other. Do you have an appointment? One asked in Korean. No. But he'll want to see me. Tell him Adanna is here. More exchanged looks. One of them spoke quietly into a phone. His expression changed surprise, then something like respect. Please, come with me. They took her to a private elevator, up 50 floors, into a penthouse office that was all windows and power. Seoul spread out beneath them like a glittering kingdom. And there, behind a massive desk, looking at her like she was an apparition, was Ji-hoon. He stood slowly, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he moved too fast. Adanna. Just her name. But the way he said it, like a prayer, like a miracle, made her heart clench. Leave us, he said to the guards without taking his eyes off her. They left. The door closed. They were alone. You came, he said, and there was wonder in his voice. I came. Why? She took a breath, stepped further into the room, tried to find the words for something she didn't fully understand herself. Because I'm tired of being safe, she said finally. Because you're right, I've been hiding. From life, from feelings, from the possibility of being hurt again. I came to Korea to be alone, to be invisible, to never need anyone. She moved closer. And then you saw me. Really saw me. And you didn't let me hide. And it terrified me because I'd forgotten what it felt like to be wanted. Not needed, not useful, wanted. For myself. Just as I am. You're wanted, he said roughly. So wanted it's driving me insane. This last month, not seeing you, not talking to you, it's been torture. Good, she said, and almost smiled at his surprised expression. Because I've been miserable too. Adanna. I don't know if this is a good idea, she continued. You're 10 years younger than me. You're a criminal. Your world is dangerous. There are 1,000 reasons this shouldn't work. But his eyes were intense, hopeful, desperate. But I'm tired of being alone, she whispered. And I think maybe I'm ready to try again. With you. If you still. She didn't finish, because he crossed the space between them in 3 strides and kissed her. Not gentle. Not soft. Desperate and hungry and full of 6 weeks of restraint finally breaking. She kissed him back with equal desperation, her hands fisting in his shirt, his arms wrapping around her like he'd never let go. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. I promise, he whispered fiercely, I will never hurt you. I will protect you with everything I have. I will be faithful to you until my last breath. I will. Shoo. She touched his face, this beautiful, dangerous man who looked at her like she hung the moon. Just be with me. That's all I need. I can do that, he breathed. I can absolutely do that. He kissed her again, softer this time, and Adanna felt something that had been frozen for 6 years finally begin to thaw. Loving Ji-hoon wasn't easy. His world was dangerous in ways she'd never imagined. Rival families, police investigations, the constant threat of violence. He tried to shield her from it, to keep that part of his life separate, but she wouldn't let him. I chose this, she told him when he tried to push her away during a particularly dangerous conflict with a rival syndicate. I chose you. All of you. Not just the parts that are safe. You could get hurt. So could you. Every day. Does that mean I should leave? That's different. Why? Because you're the man? Because you're supposed to protect me? She cupped his face, made him look at her. We protect each other. That's what partnership is. He assigned guards to her anyway, discreet, professional, but always there. She was annoyed at first, then grudgingly accepted it when he explained the reality of his enemies. They will use you to get to me, he said bluntly. I can't lose you. So please, let me keep you safe. She met his family 3 months into their relationship, a formal dinner that terrified her more than any business presentation ever had. His father, the previous head of the family, was cold and assessing. His mother was polite but distant. His younger brother openly skeptical. You're Nigerian, his father said in English, studying her. Older than Ji-hoon. Divorced. Yes to all 3, she replied calmly, refusing to be cowed. And you understand what my son is? What we are. I do. Does that not bother you? She looked at Ji-hoon, who sat rigid with tension beside her. It bothers me that good men do bad things, she said carefully. But I also know the world isn't black and white. And I know your son is kind, loyal, and loves fiercely what he does for a living. I'm still reconciling that. But I love him. And that's not negotiable. Silence around the table. Then his father smiled, small but genuine. She has spine, he said to Ji-hoon in Korean. Then back to Adanna in English. Welcome to the family, Adanna SSI. It wasn't enthusiastic approval, but it was acceptance. Ji-hoon's hand found hers under the table, squeezed gratefully. 6 months into their relationship, reality caught up with them. A rival family made a move, aggressive, unexpected, targeting Ji-hoon's businesses and associates. He became distant, consumed with handling the threat. Disappeared for days at a time. Came home exhausted, sometimes bloody, always tense. She tried to be understanding, tried to give him space to handle it. But one night he came home at 3 a.m. with blood on his shirt, not his own, he assured her, and rage in his eyes, and she'd had enough. Talk to me, she demanded. There's nothing to talk about. Bullshit. You're shutting me out. I'm protecting you. I don't need protection from the truth. Her voice rose. I need my partner to talk to me. To let me in. This isn't your world. It became my world when I chose you, she shouted. Stop trying to shield me and just be honest. He stared at her, something breaking in his expression. They threatened you, he said finally, his voice raw. Left a message. Said if I didn't back down, they'd take what I valued most. They sent a picture of you. At your office. With crosshairs on it. Her blood ran cold, but she kept her voice steady. And what did you do? What do you think I did? His eyes were fierce, feral. I burned their operations to the ground. I made it clear that touching you meant death, slow, painful death. I started a war, Adanna. For you. She should have been horrified. Maybe she was. But underneath the horror was something else, the primal satisfaction of being protected, of being valued enough to go to war for. Are we safe now? She asked. Getting there. It'll take time, but yes. I won't let anyone hurt you. She crossed to him, took his face in her hands despite the blood, the exhaustion, the violence that clung to him. I know, she said softly. Because I trust you. But Ji-hoon, you have to trust me too. Trust me to handle the truth. Trust me to be strong enough for this life. Stop trying to protect me from who you are. I'm a monster, he whispered. You're my monster, she corrected. And I love you. All of you. He broke then, pulled her into his arms and held on like she was the only thing keeping him human. I love you, he breathed into her hair. So much it scares me. Good, she whispered back. We can be scared together. Their first year was turbulent, navigating his dangerous world, her adjustment to being part of a crime family, the cultural differences, the age gap that people never stopped commenting on. But they weathered it all. He was obsessive, yes, tracking her location, calling multiple times a day, needing to know she was safe. But she learned to see it for what it was, not control, but fear. The fear of losing the one thing that made his dark world bearable. She was stubborn, independent, refusing to be the obedient mafia wife. But he learned to love that about her, her strength, her refusal to bend, the way she challenged him, humanized him. They fought loudly, passionately, and made up the same way. On their 1-year anniversary, he took her back to the alley where they'd met. "Why here?" she asked, confused. "Because this is where my life started," he said simply. "Everything before you was just existence. Survival. Power. But this," he gestured to the alley, "this is where I found something worth living for." He knelt then, in the same spot where she'd first found him bleeding, and pulled out a ring. "Marry me," he said. Not a question. A plea. "Be mine officially. Let me be yours. Let me spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of the woman who stopped to save a monster." "You're not a monster," she said, tears streaming down her face. "With you, I'm not," he agreed. "So marry me. Make me better. Make me human." "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, yes, always yes." He slid the ring on her finger and kissed her there in the alley, and Adanna thought about the woman she'd been a year ago, lonely, hiding, convinced she was too old, too damaged for love. That woman wouldn't recognize her now. And thank God for that. They married in a small ceremony that blended both cultures, her Nigerian traditions, his Korean ones, creating something entirely theirs. Her sister Chioma flew in from Lagos and cried through the whole ceremony. "I was so wrong about you," she told Ji-hoon. "Take care of my sister. With my life," he promised, "and mend it." His family accepted her fully now. His mother had softened considerably. His brother had become a friend. His father gave them his blessing. "You've changed him," his father told her at the reception. "Made him lighter. Less angry." "Thank you." Their life settled into something rich and complicated and deeply satisfying. Yes, his work was dangerous. Yes, there were moments of terror, of violence, of reality crashing in. But there was also joy. Partnership. A love so fierce it sometimes took her breath away. He was still obsessive, would probably always be obsessive. Needed to know where she was, who she was with, that she was safe. Filled their home with flowers. Left love notes. Cancelled important meetings just to have lunch with her. "You know this isn't normal, right?" she told him once, laughing as she found yet another gift, this time a first edition of her favorite book. "Normal is boring," he replied, pulling her into his arms. "I prefer obsessed." "You're impossible." "Impossibly in love with you," he corrected, and kissed her until she forgot what they were talking about. 2 years into their marriage, Adanna stood in their penthouse apartment, looking out over Seoul as the sun set. She was 49 now. He was 39. The age gap didn't matter anymore, had stopped mattering the moment she'd let herself love him. She heard him come home, felt his arms wrap around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "Hello, my love," he murmured. "Hello, monster," she teased back. He bit her shoulder lightly in retaliation, making her laugh. "How was your day?" she asked. "Better now." They stood there as Seoul lit up beneath them, this unlikely pair, the Nigerian communications consultant and the Korean mafia boss who'd built something beautiful from an encounter in a bloody alley. "Do you ever regret it?" he asked quietly. "Saying yes to me? To this life?" She turned in his arms, looked up at this beautiful, dangerous man who loved her with an intensity that would probably never fade. "Not once," she said honestly. "Not for a single moment. Even though I'm obsessed?" "Especially because you're obsessed," she corrected. "I spent years being invisible, Ji-hoon. Being overlooked. Being tolerated but not treasured. You see me. You've never stopped seeing me. How could I regret that?" He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips soft, reverent touches that still made her heart skip after 2 years. "I will never stop seeing you," he promised. "Even when we're old and gray, even when." When I'm really old and you're just getting gray, she interrupted with a wry smile. Age is just a number. That's what younger men always say. And it's true. He cupped her face, his expression serious now. You could be 70 and I'd still look at you the way I did in that alley. Like you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Like your salvation wrapped in human form. That's quite a line, Mr. Kong. It's not a line, Mrs. Kong. He smiled at using her married name. It's a promise. But life, as always, had more complications in store. 3 months later, the complications arrived in the form of her ex-husband. Marcus Okonkwo showed up in Seoul unannounced, tracking her down through her business contacts, appearing at her office with that charming smile she'd once loved and learned to hate. Adanna, he said, like they were old friends. Like he hadn't destroyed her trust 6 years ago. You look incredible. What are you doing here, Marcus? Business in Seoul. Thought I'd look you up. He looked around her office, tastefully decorated, clearly successful. You've done well for yourself. What do you want? He had the grace to look uncomfortable. Can we talk? Really talk? There's a cafe downstairs. No. Adanna, please. I've been trying to reach you for months. Your sister wouldn't give me your number, said you'd moved on, but I need to talk to you. Against her better judgment, because she was curious, because she wanted to prove to herself that he had no power over her anymore, she agreed. They sat in the cafe, and she waited. I made a mistake, he said finally. Leaving you. I was stupid, selfish. I thought I wanted someone younger, easier, less you. But I was wrong. Okay. He blinked. Okay. You were wrong. I agree. Is that all? I want you back. She almost laughed. Would have if he didn't look so serious. Marcus, I'm married. His face fell. Since when? A year and a half ago. To who? Someone who loves me. Who chose me. Who doesn't see my age or my independence or my strength as flaws to be tolerated. I never said. You didn't have to. She stood up, suddenly tired of this conversation. You left me for a 25-year-old because you wanted someone who needed you more, who challenged you less, who made you feel young. And that's fine. You're allowed to want that. But I've moved on, Marcus. I'm happy. And I'm not interested in revisiting the past. Does he know how difficult you can be? Marcus asked, and there was bitterness in his voice now. How stubborn. How you always have to be right. He knows, she said calmly. And he loves me anyway. Imagine that. She left him sitting there and went back to her office, feeling lighter than she had in years. She should have known it wouldn't end there. Because Marcus, in his desperation, made the worst possible mistake. He started asking around about her. About her husband. About the mysterious Korean man who'd swept the divorced Nigerian consultant off her feet. And in Seoul, asking questions about Kang Ji-hoon attracted attention. The wrong kind of attention. She didn't tell Ji-hoon about Marcus's visit at first. It seemed insignificant, handled, not worth mentioning. But 3 days later, Ji-hoon came home early, his expression dark. Who is Marcus Okonkwo? He asked without preamble. Her heart sank. How do you know that name? Because he's been asking questions about me. About us. About our marriage. His voice was too calm, too controlled. And when someone starts investigating my wife, I hear about it. He's my ex-husband. He showed up 3 days ago, wanted to talk. I told him I was married and not interested. I thought that was the end of it. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't important. He wanted me back, I said no, end of story. Ji-hoon's jaw tightened. And now he's investigating us. Asking dangerous questions to dangerous people. Does he have any idea what he's doing? Probably not. Marcus is arrogant, but not suicidal. He will be if he keeps this up. Ji-hoon pulled out his phone. I need to make some calls. What are you going to do? He looked at her, and there was something cold in his eyes. Something that reminded her exactly who she'd married. I'm going to make sure he stops asking questions. Permanently. Ji-hoon, no. No? He raised an eyebrow. He's putting you in danger. Putting us in danger. You know what happens when people connect dots they shouldn't connect. He's ignorant, not malicious. He doesn't know. Ignorance isn't an excuse when it puts you at risk. Don't hurt him. Why not? There was something raw in his voice now, something possessive and fierce. He had you and he threw you away. Left you. Made you doubt yourself. And now he comes back and wants to take you from me? After I've spent 2 years worshipping you? After. Ji-hoon. She crossed to him, put her hands on his chest. I love you. Only you. Marcus is my past. A past I've made peace with. But if you hurt him because of some misguided sense of protecting what's yours, you'll become exactly the monster you're afraid of being. I am that monster, he said roughly. I've done worse things for lesser reasons. But not to him. Not for me. Because I'm asking you not to. He looked torn, violent energy radiating from him, fighting with the control she knew he maintained for her sake. I can make him leave Seoul, he said finally. Make it clear that staying is unhealthy. Can you do it without bloodshed? I can do it without permanent damage, he amended. It wasn't ideal, but she knew it was the best compromise she'd get. Okay, she said quietly. But Ji-hoon, please be careful. I don't want Marcus hurt, but I also don't want you to do something that will haunt you. He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. You make me want to be better, he whispered. You make me want to be the man you see when you look at me. But protecting you, keeping you safe, that's not negotiable. That's my line. I know, she said. And I love you for it. Just remember who you are. Who we are. Don't let him pull you into darkness because of me. Everything I do is because of you, he said. You're my light, Adanna. My only light. Marcus left Seoul 3 days later. She didn't ask Ji-hoon what happened, what threats were made, what pressure was applied. She just knew that Marcus stopped asking questions, packed up his hotel room, and flew back to Lagos. He sent her one email before he left. I understand now. Be careful, Adanna. You're in deeper than you know. She deleted it without responding. But that night, wrapped in Ji-hoon's arms, she asked, Did you hurt him? No. His answer was immediate, honest. I scared him. Explained very clearly what would happen if he ever contacted you again, ever spoke your name, ever thought about you for more than a passing moment. But I didn't touch him. Because you asked me not to. Thank you. Don't thank me. He kissed her shoulder. I wanted to hurt him. Wanted to make him pay for every moment he made you doubt yourself, for every tear you cried because of him. But you're right, that's not who I want to be. Not with you. You're a good man, she said. No, I'm not. But I'm trying to be. For you. That's enough, she whispered. That's more than enough. Life continued its complicated dance. Her business thrived. She was now one of the most sought-after communications consultants in Seoul, her unique perspective bridging African and Asian markets. His business evolved, still criminal at its core, but he'd started legitimizing parts of it, investing in legal ventures, slowly building an empire that might one day be clean. For our children, he said one night, catching her by surprise. Children. If we have them. I know you said you can't, that the doctors told you after your miscarriage, but if we can, through adoption or surrogacy or... He looked uncertain, vulnerable in a way that still surprised her. I'd like that. With you. She felt tears prick her eyes. I'm 51, Ji-hoon. So having children now, adopting, even, it's complicated. I'd be 70 when they graduated high school. And I'd be 60, he said simply. Still plenty of time to embarrass them. Still plenty of time to love them. If that's something you want. Did she want it? She'd thought that door was closed, her miscarriage at 42, the diagnosis that followed, the acceptance that motherhood wasn't in her cards. But with Ji-hoon, looking at her with hope and love, and that devastating certainty that anything was possible. Maybe, she said softly. Let's think about it. His smile was brighter than the Seoul skyline behind him. They started the process 6 months later. Adoption, international, complicated by his background and her age, but possible. It took 2 years. 2 years of paperwork, interviews, background checks that required Ji-hoon to call in every favor he'd ever earned to pass, despite his criminal record. 2 years of hope and disappointment and hope again. And then, on a cold February morning, they got the call. A baby girl. 6 months old. Born in Ethiopia, orphaned at 2 months, healthy and perfect and theirs if they wanted her. Adanna cried for an hour straight. Ji-hoon made arrangements to fly to Addis Ababa within the week. They brought her home on a sunny March day, this tiny, perfect creature with dark eyes and curly hair and the most beautiful smile Adanna had ever seen. Amara, Ji-hoon said, holding her with surprising confidence for a man who'd never held a baby before. It means grace in Igbo. You researched Igbo names? Adanna asked, something warm unfurling in her chest. Of course. She's half you, half me. She should have a name that honors both worlds. Amara Kang. Their daughter. Their miracle. Watching Ji-hoon with their daughter was a revelation. This man who commanded respect through fear, who'd killed and ordered killings, who ruled an empire built on violence. He was gentle with Amara. Patient. Devoted. He woke up for midnight feedings. Changed diapers without complaint. Sang to her in Korean while Adanna sang in Igbo. You're good at this, she told him one night, watching him rock Amara back to sleep. I'm obsessed with her, he replied with a soft smile. Just like I'm obsessed with her mother. It's a family trait apparently. Their life transformed around this tiny person. Business meetings were scheduled around nap times. The penthouse that had been all sophisticated minimalism was now covered in colorful toys. Guards who'd once looked terrifying now cooed at a baby and argued over whose turn it was to hold her. The most dangerous men in Seoul, Adanna said one afternoon, watching 3 of Ji-hoon's most feared enforcers make silly faces at Amara, reduced to puddles by a 6-month-old. She's powerful, Ji-hoon agreed, wrapping his arms around Adanna from behind. Like her mother. Amara turned 1, then 2, then 3. Adanna turned 54. Ji-hoon turned 44. And they were happy. Not perfectly, not without complications, not without the occasional crisis that came with Ji-hoon's world. But happy. Deeply, profoundly happy. One evening, after putting Amara to bed, they sat on their balcony overlooking Seoul. The same view they'd had for years, but different now. Richer. More meaningful. Do you remember, Ji-hoon said softly that first night? In the alley. How could I forget? You were bleeding all over the place. Very dramatic. He laughed. I thought I was dying. And then you appeared. This beautiful woman who didn't run, who didn't look at me with fear or disgust. Who just helped. You were hurt. What else would I do? Most people walked past, he reminded her. You stopped. You saved me. And in doing so, you saved me in ways you didn't even realize. She turned to look at him, this man who'd been obsessed with her from the moment they met, who'd pursued her relentlessly, who loved her with an intensity that hadn't dimmed in 5 years. I think we saved each other, she said softly. I was dying too, in a different way. Dying of loneliness, of isolation, of convincing myself I didn't deserve more. And then you refused to let me hide. I couldn't, he said simply. You are everything I didn't know I needed. Everything I never thought I deserved. And I'm selfish enough that once I saw you, I couldn't let you go. I'm glad you didn't. Even though I'm a criminal? Even though my world is dangerous? Even though everything, she interrupted. You're mine, Kang Ji-hoon. My monster. My obsession. My love. And I wouldn't change a single thing. He kissed her then, soft and deep and full of promise. 5 years together, and it still felt new, still felt electric, still felt like coming home. I love you, he whispered against her lips. My Adanna. My everything. I love you too, she whispered back. Always. From inside, they heard Amara cry out, a nightmare, probably, nothing serious. They both stood immediately, moving as one toward their daughter's room. Co-parents, co-partners, co-everything. Ji-hoon reached her first, scooped her up, murmured soothing words in Korean while Adanna stroked her hair and sang softly in Igbo. Mama, Amara mumbled, still half asleep. Papa. We're here, they said in unison. Always here. And watching her husband comfort their daughter, Adanna thought about the woman she'd been 5 years ago. That woman had been so sure her life was over. That love was behind her. That at 47, divorced and alone in a foreign country, the best she could hope for was professional success and comfortable solitude. That woman wouldn't recognize her now. 54 years old. Married to a man 10 years younger who loved her obsessively. Mother to a beautiful 3-year-old girl. Happy. Truly, deeply happy. Life had a funny way of surprising you. Sometimes, the person you find bleeding in an alley turns out to be your salvation. Sometimes, obsession turns into the truest love you've ever known. Sometimes, saying yes to the impossible leads to everything you never knew you needed. Adanna kissed her daughter's forehead, met Ji-hoon's eyes over Amara's head, and smiled. This was her life now. Complicated. Dangerous. Unconventional. And absolutely perfect. 7 years later. Adanna stood in the same alley where she'd first found Ji-hoon, now holding the hand of their 10-year-old daughter. Amara was beautiful, all long limbs and bright curiosity, speaking fluent Korean, Igbo, and English, completely unaware that most children didn't have bodyguards or that their father wasn't just a businessman. This is where your father and I met, Adanna said, pointing to the exact spot. Here. Amara wrinkled her nose. In this dirty alley? It wasn't very romantic, Ji-hoon agreed, coming up behind them. At 51, he was still devastatingly handsome, gray just starting to thread through his dark hair. Your mother found me bleeding and probably thought I was going to die. Was he bleeding a lot? Amara asked with the morbid curiosity of a 10-year-old. So much, Adanna confirmed. And you saved him? I helped him. And then he became obsessed with me. Papa? Amara looked at her father. Is that true? Completely true, Ji-hoon said without shame. I saw your mother and knew immediately that she was the most important person I'd ever meet. So I pursued her. That's so embarrassing, Amara groaned. Love often is, Adanna said with a laugh. They walked together through Gangnam, this unusual family, the Nigerian communications consultant, the reformed, mostly, Mafia boss, and their daughter who was being raised in 3 cultures and infinite love. Ji-hoon had gone increasingly legitimate over the years. The criminal empire still existed, but it was being slowly dismantled, replaced with legal businesses. For Amara, he said. So she could be proud of her father. Adanna's business had expanded internationally. She was now considered one of the foremost experts on African-Asian business communications, flying between Seoul, Lagos, and Singapore regularly. Their life was full, rich, complicated, and beautiful. That evening, after putting Amara to bed, they returned to their spot on the balcony. 61, Ji-hoon said suddenly. What? You'll be 61. Next month. And you're more beautiful now than you were at 47 when I met you. You're delusional. I'm honest. He pulled her close. You have gray in your hair now. Lines around your eyes. You're softer than you were, harder in some ways. And I love every single change. Every year with you is better than the last. Even when I'm old and slow and even then, especially then, I plan to be the most devoted 70-year-old husband to the most beautiful 80-year-old wife in all of Korea. She laughed. That's your plan. That's my promise. He turned her to face him, his expression serious now. You gave me everything, Adanna. A life worth living. A daughter to love. A reason to be better. You took a man who was obsessed and turned that obsession into something good. Something pure. You did that yourself. No, he said firmly. You did that. You've been doing it since that first night. You saved me. Not just physically, you saved my soul. Tears pricked her eyes. After all these years, he could still make her cry with a sentence. I love you, she whispered. My impossible, obsessive, wonderful man. I love you, he replied. My stubborn, beautiful, perfect woman. My Adanna. Always. They stood there as Seoul glittered beneath them, having this same conversation they'd had 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways. And Adanna thought, this is love. Not the easy kind. Not the simple kind. Not the kind poets write about or movies romanticize. The complicated kind. The grown-up kind. The kind that survives danger and doubt and the weight of reality. The kind worth fighting for. The kind worth stopping in an alley for. The kind worth saying yes to, even when you're terrified. Especially when you're terrified. Because sometimes, the best things in life come from the moments that scare us most. From the strangers we help. From the obsessions that won't let us go. From the love we think we're too old, too damaged, too broken for. Adanna had stopped in an alley 7 years ago for a bleeding stranger. And in return, she'd found everything she never knew she was looking for. Home. Love. Family. Life. Everything. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Afro-Korean drama stories. Follow for daily episodes and stay tuned for the next part.